April 21st, 2019, Easter Sunday. What began as a morning of prayer and peace became one of the darkest days in Sri Lanka's history. At 8:45 a.m., a series of explosions ripped through 3 churches and 3 luxury hotels. Within minutes, hundreds lay dead. A survivor later recalled, "I turned and the whole church was gone. I couldn't hear anything but screams." The attack struck St. Anthony's Shrine in Colombo, St. Sebastian's Church in Negombo, Zion Church in Batticaloa, and hotels including Shangri-La, Cinnamon Grand, and Kingsbury. Authorities quickly blamed a little-known group, National Tawhid Jamaat, or NINT-J, led by radical preacher Zaran Hashim. The so-called Islamic State claimed responsibility, calling the bombers their soldiers. Yet, many questions remained. Who enabled such precision? And how did warnings go unheeded? The answer to that question is a story of catastrophic failure, a timeline of unheeded alerts. The warnings began weeks earlier. On April 4th, Indian intelligence delivered a bombshell memo to Sri Lankan officials. It was incredibly specific, naming the group .jitj, its leader, Zaran Hashim, and their horrifying plan to bomb prominent churches and the Indian High Commission. Another formal warning was sent on April 11th. A third followed on April 20th, the day before Easter, confirming the threat was active. Within Sri Lanka's own police force, a top intelligence official wrote a formal memo outlining the plot and circulated it 10 days before the attack. But the country's leadership was critically fractured. A bitter political feud between the president and prime minister meant they were barely communicating. Crucial National Security Council meetings were not being attended by the right people, and trust had evaporated. The intelligence, which could have saved hundreds of lives, became a political hot potato, passed around but never decisively acted upon. It was lost in a void of bureaucratic infighting. Then, in the final hours, the warnings became desperate. Indian officials called their counterparts on the morning of April 21st, telling them an attack was expected to occur within hours. But it was too late. The gears of government were frozen. For the citizens enjoying their Easter morning, there was no official alert, no heightened security, no sign of the impending doom that their own government had known about for weeks. The system had not just failed, it had collapsed, leaving the door wide open for terror. The Easter attacks were a tragedy, but were they a surprise? In the weeks before the bombings, intelligence agencies, both local and foreign, had shared detailed alerts about possible attacks on churches. But no action was taken. Indian intelligence passed several specific warnings in early April, naming the leader and the targets. But Sri Lankan officials failed to coordinate or respond. After the attack, the investigation uncovered another shock. The bombers were not marginalized radicals from the fringes of society. Many, like Ilham and Inshaf Ibrahim, sons of a Colombo spice magnate, were from wealthy, educated families. They had secretly pledged allegiance to Zaran Hashim months earlier, bankrolling parts of the deadly plot. While the government officially blamed Islamic extremism, whistleblowers and journalists began pointing toward a deeper, more disturbing possibility. A 2023 UK documentary from Channel 4 reignited the controversy, presenting explosive testimony from a high-level source. The allegation that elements close to the powerful Rajapaksa political circle knew an attack was coming. The claim was that the ensuing chaos was allowed to happen, destabilizing the government and paving the way for Gotabaya. Rajapaksa's election later that year on a platform of national security Authorities have vehemently denied any complicity, dismissing the claims as baseless political attacks. Yet others point to a wider geopolitical game, suggesting the attack could have been exploited as a false flag in a regional power struggle between India, China, and the United States. Was it a catastrophic intelligence blunder? A cynical political conspiracy? Or a pawn in a global power game? Whatever the truth, one fact remained. For the 269 people who lost their lives, the system failed completely. Years have passed, but for the families of the Easter Sunday victims, time has not healed the deepest wounds. Justice remains a distant, flickering hope. In the quiet vigils and solemn memorials, their grief is a constant presence. The leadership of Sri Lanka's Catholic Church, led by Cardinal Malcolm Ranjith, has become the loudest voice for accountability. "We need to know who is behind this tragedy," he has stated. "Not just the attackers, but those who allowed it to happen." The path to justice has been a labyrinth of commissions and court cases. Multiple inquiries have generated thousands of pages of reports, but have led to few meaningful convictions. For the families, it feels like a performance of justice with no real closure. The scars of Easter 2019 run deep, reopening wounds in a nation that had only just begun to heal from 3 decades of civil war. The attack shattered a fragile peace and reignited a deep-seated mistrust in the state. Yet, amidst the anger and grief, signs of resilience emerge. Churches, once shattered, have been rebuilt, their walls repainted, but their memories honored. But the fundamental question hangs in the air. Some argue it is time to move on, to focus on unity and reform. Others insist that true peace is impossible without truth, that the full story is still buried, waiting for the courage to bring it to light. For the 269 lives lost on Easter Sunday, and for the justice still denied,